He has friends, good ones, actually. People who have shown up for him, people who have proven themselves repeatedly over years, and he still waits for them to let him down, not consciously, not because he wants to think the worst. But somewhere underneath every good thing, there's a quiet voice that says, "Not yet. Just wait. It's exhausting." He knows that. He just doesn't know how to make it stop. Stay with me, because people who trust no one are not cold or difficult or broken. They are people whose trust was taken seriously once and handled carelessly. And the psychology of what that does to a person is something nobody ever fully explains. Picture someone like Daniel, late 20s, intelligent, self-aware enough to know exactly what he does. He keeps people at a specific distance, close enough to feel connection, far enough to manage the risk. He's generous, genuinely. He'll help anyone who needs it. He listens well. He remembers details. He shows up. But if you ask the people closest to Daniel whether they feel truly known by him, most of them would pause before answering, because Daniel gives a lot. He just never gives access. There's a version of him nobody reaches. Not because he's hiding something shameful, but because letting someone that far in has never once ended the way he hoped it would. And at some point, the math stopped making sense. People who trust no one didn't arrive there by accident. They arrived there by experience. Somewhere, usually early, usually with someone who should have been safe. Trust was extended, fully, the way children do. Without strategy, without conditions, without a backup plan. And something went wrong. Maybe it was a parent who promised things and didn't deliver. Not once, consistently. The kind of inconsistency that teaches a child that love is unreliable. That people say one thing and do another. That the gap between what someone promises and what they actually give is where you get hurt. Or maybe it was a betrayal, a friend, a partner. Someone they chose deliberately and who still left them exposed. Daniel was 11 when his father made a promise he didn't keep. It wasn't dramatic. It was a small thing, a weekend that didn't happen. But Daniel had told his friends about it, had built it up in his head, had let himself want it fully without protecting himself. And when it didn't happen, what he felt wasn't just disappointment. It was something sharper. The feeling of having been foolish enough to believe. He didn't decide that day to stop trusting people. He just decided very quietly never to want something that completely again. The cruel irony of trusting no one is this: it works. That's the problem. When you keep people at a distance, you don't get hurt the same way. The betrayals are smaller. The disappointments are manageable. You see problems coming before they arrive, but the protection that keeps pain out, keeps everything else out too. Real intimacy, real belonging. The specific feeling of being known by another person, not the version you curated for them, but the actual you, messy, uncertain, fully human. Daniel has never had that. Not because nobody has tried, but because every time someone got close enough to offer it, something in him quietly, efficiently closed the door. Not out of coldness, out of memory. The body remembering what happened the last time the door was open. I want to say something here that most videos on this topic don't. Not everyone who is slow to trust is carrying a wound. Some people are discerning. They take time, they watch before they commit. And when they do trust, they trust fully, and it holds. That's not the same thing as trusting no one. The difference is whether trust feels like a choice, or whether it feels like a risk so catastrophic that no amount of evidence ever makes it feel safe enough. One is wisdom, the other is armor. And armor, worn long enough, stops feeling like protection. It starts feeling like skin. Daniel let someone in last year. Not all the way, but further than he'd allowed in a long time. He told them something true, something he hadn't rehearsed. Something that came out before the filter caught it. He waited for the familiar feeling, the one that said, mistake. The one that had arrived every other time he'd opened up. It didn't come. What came instead was something quieter. The person just stayed. Asked a question, stayed some more. Daniel told me it didn't fix anything. The hypervigilance didn't disappear. The waiting for the worst didn't stop. But something shifted in the calculation, because the data changed. One person had been given access and hadn't used it to hurt him, and the part of him that had been running the same risk assessment, since he was 11 years old in that living room, had to update its model, just slightly, just once. But that's how it starts. If you trust no one, you are not cold. You are not difficult. You are not damaged beyond repair. You are someone who trusted once, completely, and learned a lesson that was never yours to learn. The lesson was wrong. But the person who learned it was just trying to survive. And surviving for as long as you have is not nothing. That's everything.